So now these two people are going to meet in a context they call therapy. And there is an expectation set that lies far wider than anything that these two people have, because it infiltrates into the very fabric of culture. Culture itself emerged this context. Okay? If we got rid of therapy context, it would re-emerge somewhere else. Possibly it would go back to the religious leaders, the priests offering counsel, or whatever else. And there's a set of rules that will govern this relationship that lie outside of anything these two people can control or inform. What I'm going to do right from the outset of any interaction, as much as possible, is to break that relationship down. Get rid of it. I'm very, very uncomfortable working with, in somebody else's clinical practice, or working with another person's client where I'm following on something they've just done. If I can't control the context from the very first point of contact, then I'm aware there's a whole set of handcuffs that are going to go on. So, the therapy session begins the very moment of that first point of contact, which might be your webpage, your leaflet, the word-of-mouth referral, the reputation you've got, all of those kind of things. The therapy session has begun if person B is the client. The session has begun and the context is beginning to build for this person. The very moment the idea is forming, they're going to come and see you. Not a therapist, but specifically you. There's been some surveys done in the UK, and this is how this works. Problem begins inside human being. It takes 1 year for that problem to actually register consciously that this is a problem. This is on averages. Once that 1 year, so the person has now had the problem for about a year in their life before they go, shit, this is actually getting a bit of a problem. From that point, there's another year before they decide to get help. And from that point, there's about another year before they do something about it. Okay? So often the problem's been there for quite a while before the person actually decides to see a therapist. And in that intermediate time, they're looking at these kind of contexts and boundaries and to see if that suits them or not. There's a therapist for every flavor under the sun. You can do tapping work, you can do regression work, you can do analytical work, you can do confrontation work, you can do all those different kinds of things. I want to make sure they're not going to be imposing those handcuffs upon my processes when I see them. Because I want to get them off that track into something else that I know is more useful. So basically, I'm going to break the cultural boundaries that they're now surrounding themselves by, that they're going to impose upon my work. And the way that I do that is the moment that phone rings, I answer it in certain ways. I always pick up the phone and go, hi, Andy Austin. Usually the person goes, oh, hi, is that Andy Austin? And I go, yeah, how can I help? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I was going to get an answer phone. Okay, I get that. That's the conversation I have more than anything else. And I say, in that case, would you like me to hang up? And you can speak to the answer phone and I'll call you back later. Okay? I'll run with this one. I'm not going to block it, I'm going to run with it. And they go, no, it's all right. I'm just hoping I could come and see you. Yeah, you were. Just before we go further, I've got some questions I need to know. And they go, yeah, okay, what's that? Bear in mind, at that moment in time, what has that person gone through? What is the courage, the thing they've had to do to pick up the phone to now say, I need help? That is a monumental thing for that human being to do most of the time, for most people. So I'm aware of the position they're in, okay? I'm very aware of that. What I need to do is I'm going to break that because I need them somewhere else. Okay, let me just ask you some questions before we go any further. I go, okay? Okay, firstly, here's what I need to know. This is important. Are you rich? And there'll be a pause. They'll go, well, not really. Then at least please tell me you're attractive. And if there's that pause, I'll go, you've already answered that one. Don't need to go any further. Okay, third one. Please tell me you're interesting. And they often go, well, not really. Oh, God. I say, go on, what's the problem? Now, often at that moment in time, they've gone through that shock, the surprise, they've laughed. I have never once had anyone hang up. Never. It's always the concern. People go, but I couldn't get away with that. Well, it's not getting away with anything. It's what I do. It's not like I'm running a number. It's not like I'm pulling a prank where I expect an outcome. This is just what I do. So there's nothing to get away with. By that point, they've relaxed and they've calmed down. And I say, so what's the problem? And you know what happens 9 times out of 10? They go, well, I don't know, really. And they'll be laughing. I was really nervous about phoning you, but now I don't know what to say. Oh, they've got a state change. And what they were going to say was dependent upon the state that they were in that drove them to make the phone call. Okay? Suddenly, this boundary that's now around the two of us now looks very, very different because now their expectation set is beginning to change. Now, that first point of contact may come via your web page, your advertising, whatever else. I have noticed far too many therapists making huge, grandiose claims. I'm going to talk a little bit about post-traumatic stress this afternoon. I know how quick that is to fix. Okay? It is really easy. But when someone's had mountains of pain for so long and it's unimaginable for them and they never thought that thing was going to happen to them, and you go, oh, that's all right, I can do it in 15 minutes. You've just invalidated them in a very, very insulting way. Okay, so I'm going to be very, despite the fact that what I'm doing appears to be very disrespectful, I actually find the feedback I get is they feel much more respected as a result. I'm not patronizing, I'm not flowery, I'm not kind of, oh yes, we can do wonderful things, I know these, I did a 7-day course, I know what to do. You know, I don't go into that. I'm very matter of fact, very real world. With that in mind, how many people, you don't actually have to raise your hand for this one, have a web page, even though it's just you, the contact page says contact us. Change it. Okay? Your first point of contact with your client is a lie. You need to change that. Because now you're leading your client up a path that is untrue. And you're going to encourage them to be authentic, genuine, and honest. These things are really important. If you don't know how to do something, be honest about it. If you're unsure of whether you can help the person, go, I'm unsure if I can help you. They're the clients who are more determined to come and see me. They go, do you reckon you can help me with such and such a problem? I go, I have no idea. I've never dealt with anything like that before. Sounds kind of fun, though. Well, for me. Sounds like a bloody nightmare for you. But if you fancy humoring me for a couple of hours, we could see what we get. Sign me up. They want to know, when's your next appointment? Because I'm being honest, I'm being real. Because people are so used to reading copy, hearing advertising that promises the earth. And most of those clients' experience is failure. It hasn't worked. Everything they have tried to date to solve the problem they've got does not work. So I'm just going to paste that belief and that experience. I'm not going to invalidate it. I'm not going to go, well, those other therapists probably weren't so good, I'm so much better. No. If they say, well, I've had a dozen therapists by now, and no one seems to be able to help, I go, you're probably unhelpable. We've got to be realistic here. So sure, some of those therapists were probably idiots, but the reality is you're probably unhelpable. I'll still take your money, because I've got needs as well. You see, as therapists, this is really important. There's two people in this relationship. The client is coming to you to have their needs, whatever their needs are, to be fulfilled. Simultaneously, the therapist is fulfilling their own needs. You want to feel good about yourself. You want to do good work. You want to be a valued member of humanity. You could gather status within the communities that exist around the therapeutic industry. It could well be that you could produce products, in which case you can make some money. It could be that this will help you build self-esteem. Because when I've got a thriving practice, I've got the life I've always dreamed of. Oh, so you need your clients more than your clients need you. All these things are important. You've got bills to pay as well. You've got all of these other considerations that are absolutely things that are being derived from this relationship. And yet we pretend that's not happening. That seems really fucked up. I'm absolutely right up front with the fact that this is my business, this is how I make my living, and I make a good living from it. I make no pretense about that whatsoever.